Hey, it's 11:40 The Bet here in Las Vegas, Audacy Sports as well. The final game preview for the Raiders, the season finale as they host the Chiefs this Saturday, not Sunday, this Saturday. And joining us now is a dude who really understands football, because let's be honest, we all love the game, but we really don't know what we're watching. This man helps us, be educated and know what's going on with the plays and everything. So without further ado, for the first time, joining us is Marcus Johnson. You can follow him at the Mark John NFL, contributor for Silver and Black Pride, host of A Little Pocket Awareness, the quarterback podcast, Tape Don't Lie. He's involved in a lot of things. First and foremost, Happy New Year, Marcus. How you doing, bro?
Good, man. Thank you for having me on. How about yourself? How you doing, man?
No, we're doing good. I hope I got all the plugs correctly. We got to make
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, we got it, man. We good.
And I want to start here because I mentioned it on the show and I put it on social media, and you brought it up, and I don't think a lot of people are paying attention, is the tight end position and how Darren Waller, obviously he's been injured, but he's been on the field. He looks healthy these past couple of weeks, these last 3 weeks specifically. He's not really getting snaps. What's your best guess? Like, is this the front office and the coaching staff being like, oh, we kind of don't want you around, my guy?
Yeah, I feel like there's a little bit of that. Because even if you have the talent level of Foster Moreau, and I know a lot of people say that just he's a better blocker, and I would say I'm up in the air with that. I mean, there's sometimes maybe you have a good block. There's a lot of bad blocks, especially in pass protection with Foster Moreau. And then you saw some timely drops, and then you saw some timely drops from Darren Waller this year. But I mean, there's just the ability. I mean, you see the difference from how Darren Waller just creates a matchup problem everybody. I mean, you saw a couple touchdowns, big plays he had for Jarrett Stidham this past week. He made a great catch, jumping up like 50 feet in the air, snapping that ball out of the air. So you see the talent level difference even with the blocking. So I don't know. I feel like you're just kind of using it more as a widespread. I know a lot of people saying where he's Aaron Hernandez, but I mean, I don't know. I felt like that he was more Gronk coming into this. The kind of the sub package tight end.
Yeah.
So even if you try to say that's his role, I mean, that's still a demotion, in my opinion. I mean,
and I don't know. Do you know off the top of your hand with the last game versus the 49ers, the snap count difference between Foster and Darren?
39 to 54. So 39 Darren, 54 Foster Moreau.
That's math. That's 15, 16 more snaps. So this is again because 2 weeks ago that was the same deal. That's an odd situation, man, and that don't make sense. This man's getting paid way too much money. And you brought up Jarrett Stidham, and I know that's what a lot of people are going to be watching this video for. What was your reaction of his start against the 49ers?
Yeah, I thought he played well, man. I thought he came out there and he definitely executed the game plan well. I think he had very control of the offense. I think what you like to see. Definitely was very accurate, especially when they kept him clean. That's when you really saw his his arm talent. I thought he showed a lot of arm talent. Definitely could see why he was a dual threat coming out, number one dual threat guy. So definitely saw his arm talent. Sometimes, you maybe wish you would read the field a little bit more, but you saw his legs, saw him make plays outside of the structure. So you saw a lot of good things. And of course, there's some things that you could definitely work on, but I mean, definitely so he could be more consistent if you want to be an NFL starter for sure. But I mean, definitely was a good outing and definitely showed that there's good playmakers that, can help him make plays. If he's not in the right position, he can just throw it up to Devontae Adams, who can make some plays and things like that. I think he gave his playmakers a lot of chance and they made plays for him this week. But it was a good performance, man. He just definitely has some confidence in himself and going forward.
And it's been a long time on this program, on this station, that I've given Josh McDaniels some credit. So I'm going to do it right here. I give him credit at the beginning of the game for making Jared, comfortable, I guess we should say. And with that being said, I want to ask you, throughout the season, it's been weird. I know at the beginning of the season, why isn't Josh Jacobs getting enough snaps? Because he's making progress and he's doing this thing. But as the season has progressed for you, has there been a progression with Josh McDaniels, and what's changed? And has that change been positive or negative in your eyes?
I think with Josh McDaniels, he's a great opening script guy. I think he's going to come in prepared. You see that. I mean, they get up on people. I mean, they've been up 17-0. I mean, 3 times up on every single team, kind of blowing all these leads, right? And, even in the Rams game, right? I mean, everybody talks about how bad the offense played in the Rams game. The Rams game, they came out hot. I think they went right down the field and scored a touchdown, I believe. And, a lot of these games, they come up with some great game scripts And, he's a great game planner, but it's just what happens after that is what's wrong with Josh McDaniels at this point. He has some go-to plays that kind of get redundant. A lot of these teams are ready for it. The Steelers are ready for them no matter what. I mean, it would have been a little tough sledding for them, just the way they play football and the way he calls plays for how the Steelers game went. And, the same game in the second half, you saw a little bit of different play calls from him. Wasn't as much messing with the defensive rules that the 49ers had, man, because he had them in a flux. They were confused at the beginning of that game. But when they started to get it together, it was more because Josh McDaniels just has his go-tos. And I think he kind of leaned on Jarrett Stidham to kind of,
make something happen.
Yeah, make something happen. It wasn't going to work. And I think, especially in his first start, definitely didn't make him feel comfortable the whole game, I would say.
And reports came out earlier this morning that apparently the Raiders had made up their mind on Derek Carr earlier in the season. And I know it's been talked to death about, hey, how do we get all these pieces on offense now coming into this year, and we get a new coaching staff, and suddenly Derek Carr has, if not the worst, season of his pro career. To you, based on all the tape that you watch and everything that you've seen this season, like, what's the biggest point of disconnect between them that they had this season, whether it's McDaniels and Carr or the coaching staff and Carr, and just the inability to pull out these wins and produce good offense?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is the misconception of McDaniels' offense. I think a lot of people thought it was short passing, all these little dink and dunks. I think Tom Brady has that kind of, narrative about him, right? But there's a lot of hitting intermediate windows and standing in the pocket, standing strong, and hitting digs and hitting out routes. And that's really just not Derek Carr's game. It's not something that he's really going to be able to do. He's not going to be able to sit strong in the pocket and hit a 20-yard dig. And, it's even maybe is Jarrett Stidham going to be able to do that consistently? And he was trying to have Jarrett Stidham do that as well. And we saw him throwing the ball up in there a couple of times because, that the interior offensive line is collapsing. So I think how their vision of what they want to play quarterback, Derek Carr is never going to fit that vision. If you expect him to sit in the pocket and be accurate with the pressure coming in from the interior and stand strong and throw these digs with anticipation and stuff like that, that's not going to happen from them. I mean, Tom Brady can come in here and do that right away, but it's gonna be hard for them to try to find a quarterback that can do that, right? Because it really is. It really is an old school style of quarterback play. And they put Jarrett Stidham in that position. Like I said, it started to crumble, and I thought they could have put some more college aspects or something to make him more comfortable in the second half, because that's the type of quarterback he is. And not everybody's Tom Brady, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Derek Carr's not Tom Brady. You can't even try to expect him to do things that Tom Brady does. John Gruden didn't do that. And, I think they kind of took that expected, like, this is a Tom Brady offense. You're going to either fail Derek Carr. I'm not going to help you. And you're going to run my offense. If you suck at it, you suck at it. And then you're out of here. I gave you a shot. It sounds like they really didn't even want to give him a shot in the first place. But, they kind of ruined his value a little bit. That's kind of hurts me. I mean, like, what are they going to get from him? If they're going to trade him last year, they could have got they definitely would have got a first last year. Now our first is up in the air. Is it third? Is it fourth? We don't know.
They lost the bag, essentially. And I do want to say, because this is probably going to be clipped, this might be the Twitter clip. This is a disclaimer. Marcus just gave his honest opinion, all right? There's no agenda behind it. It's just how he feels and what he knows and what he's seen on tape, okay? We're not trying to pick sides. We're just talking this out, okay? All right, moving on. Yeah. Marcus Johnson joining us at the Mark John NFL. If you want to follow him on Twitter, contributor for the Silver and Black Pride, excuse me. And obviously the offseason is going to be upon us here after Saturday. I want to ask you on the flip side, on the defensive side, heading into the offseason, how concerned are you about Patrick Graham's defense and how many holes there are, or are there that many holes, or how do you feel about the defense?
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing if they keep him, because they kept a lot of Gus Bradley guys. So these aren't really Patrick Graham system fits. I mean, they came in with Jonathan Abram, Nate Hobbs, Divine Diablo, and Trayvon Moehrig. Those are all Gus Bradley guys that he brought in. Trayvon Moehrig, he just had a history of playing these two high quarters coverages, or cover seven family, whatever you want to call it. He had a history of playing that, so you're expecting maybe him to take a leap. And then, Nate Hobbs had such a good year playing inside that maybe you try to see maybe he could play outside, and that really didn't work. So it'd be interesting to see how they do with Patrick Graham, because maybe Patrick Graham could bring some of the guys in that he really likes, and maybe we could see something from him as well. But I mean, they kind of gave him the Gus Bradley guys, gave him Chandler Jones. They really didn't switch anybody up. Denzel Perryman was back. Everybody that fit Gus Bradley's system was there, and we never really saw the guys that come in for Patrick Graham, except for Deron Harmon, really, who came in and ended up being a starter, and allowed them to kind of let go of Jonathan Abram. So it'll be interesting to see how they go going forward. Patrick Graham, does he get a mulligan because of that? We're like, hey, we're going to score so much on offense, we're going to give you some scraps from Gus Bradley and see what you can do with it. And then, or are we going to build and give him a defense? Because I mean, it's a really good defensive draft, and see what they can do.
And here at Audacy and here at 1140 The Bet, our friends down the hall, why am I blanking out on his name? Scott Gulbranson. Talking to him last week, one of the things that he said that was interesting to me is like, please don't expect this team to compete anytime soon. It's not a 5-10 year rebuild. He's just like, there's too many pieces going into next season, especially on the defense, that need to be filled. And that's very hard to do in one off season for you. And as he was saying that, I was just picturing Mark Davis in his office, like just slamming his office because being upset at this, because obviously he wants to win and he's invested a lot and he cares. But to you, where do you stand on, is this team, if they make a quarterback change, right? And obviously everyone's talking about Tom Brady, but if they shore up this defense, if they fix up this offensive line, and obviously even Josh Jacobs, there's a lot of things in the air. Like, how close do you see this team to competing?
I think one thing on offense, if they want to be able to compete consistently on offense, they got to fix the entire interior offensive line right away. That's got to be a factor. This offense cannot move without good interior offensive linemen. It's just, it won't work. I don't care who the quarterback is. If you want a quarterback to stand in there and make these throws, man, you need good guards. You need a good center. It needs to be addressed. And they did address it a little bit with Parham. So they just got to fill in some places around him, that center and guard. And I think they can make it happen there. But, defensively, they're far away. I mean, that's the problem. Right? Let's keep it real. I mean, they're gonna have to go young. I mean, there's really not too much you can spend in free agency. I know a lot of people are like, "Hey, we got free money." Like, yeah, but like, have you really gone and looked to see what's in free agency? A lot of old guys, a lot of guys turning 30. We're not seeing a lot of these guys hit 25. They're hitting the market like that. I mean, maybe they can trade for Jesse Bates. I mean, maybe if they trying to go for it like that and try to get a big exposure and pay somebody that way, maybe. But
would you do that with all the pieces?
I mean, I would.
You'd give up the draft capital. You LA Rams, let's need vibes.
I don't know. I mean, it depends on what their vision is. If they want to win now, then yeah. But if they're getting the, hey, 2-7, you're doing a fantastic job, I don't know if they should take that route. I think they should draft. I mean, because if you didn't like Derek that much, I mean, you should have got the draft value from there, in my opinion. And then you could have drafted some wide receivers or drafted guys to build with a young quarterback, and maybe even got one. I mean, there wasn't really too many last year, but now you have the draft capital to go up and get somebody or something. So I don't know. It's just, we're going to see what they do with these draft, but it'll be interesting.
As you bring that up, to me personally, like the most disappointing thing or aspect of this team and the performance is the fact that you look at this wild card race and it's really, for lack of a better word, it's kind of booty. Like, shout out to the Steelers. They're making magic happen without scoring anything. But when you see Denver and all these teams, like 9 wins gets you into the playoffs, and obviously these close games. So I don't know if there's a question in there, but I guess to you, what's the most disappointing aspect of this season for this Raiders team?
I mean, the offense is definitely disappointing. I think the passing offense, you're definitely disappointed in what you thought the vision would be. It's maybe you're thinking Derek Carr would work out with Josh McDaniels, and but the plan they had for him, you kind of can recognize in week 2, man. I mean, I saw this week 2. It was like, man, this is not going to work if you're expecting him to kind of do these things that you're expecting him to do, and that kind of brought the disappointment of the season. I mean, we were at least expecting the offense to make more plays, right, overall to get them to where they need to be, and it didn't happen, right? It didn't happen, especially late in games. You really saw a lot from Derek Carr before earlier, winning some of those games. And this year it didn't happen for whatever reason, whatever reasons everybody want to throw out there. It didn't happen. Usually we saw him be money in those situations. But I mean, to be honest, for them to make the playoffs, he would have to break the record for comeback wins too. So it's kind of a little bit weirdness there. But yeah, I mean, the offense is definitely the most disappointing part of the season for sure.
And before we get you out of here, let's get a little spicy.
Okay.
And I think I know what you're going to say, but is Tom Brady the answer?
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, I mean, if they want to win now, then yeah, they're gonna have to bring in Tom Brady because he can run this offense, man. And Josh McDaniels doesn't make the right call. I mean, he will make the right answer out of it because he knows his offense probably better than he does. So it'll be interesting to see if he comes, though, man. They're dynamic. A lot of people would like to just assume that they're best friends, but I watched the documentary and all of Tom Brady's best friends were on there, and I didn't see Josh. So I did see Bill O'Brien. Right. And then, some of these things, it's like some of these things you talk about with Tom Brady, he's going to want control of the offense. Maybe he doesn't like all the things that Josh wants to do. And we're going to see how that dynamic would work. I mean, Josh would have to lean back a little bit. But Mark wants Tom. I think that's a lot to do with make sure Derek Carr doesn't play Tom was out there. Who knows what Tom was announcing he was retire, how they handle this. They didn't want to take any chances, man. They ain't missed Tom.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? They ain't taking no chances with that. So we'll see how that works, man. But yeah, I mean, I would be ecstatic just for the small outlook, right? And I get to watch him all year. That'd be awesome for me. So I'm not gonna be mad at that. But yeah, he would definitely save us. It's just for me. This last thing I would say is for the way the quarterback position is going. It's hard for me to find somebody, especially even in this draft, who's going to just stand in there and take hits. I mean, because a lot of people are like Will Levis, and that's not going to happen, man. So it's going to be interesting to see what Josh McDaniels likes in quarterbacks going forward too.
No, 100%. And we look forward to, if you have us, welcoming you back here on the show. You kicked ass. That was amazing. Bringing it strong. That's Marcus Johnson joining us here on 1140 The Bet. Be sure to follow him at the Mark John NFL. Check him out on Silver and Black Pride, a little pocket awareness QB podcast, and the tape don't lie because it never does. Marcus, Happy New Year, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me, bro, for sure.
All right, so if you're listening right now on the podcast or on air, we apologize because this portion of it is going to be very video. It's going to be the most unconventional way we've started an interview, but I need to do this properly. So, Joe, give me 1 second. Hold on. Let's take this off. Let's put this on. We exchanged pleasantries. Let me put my headset so I can hear you. We exchanged pleasantries, but I didn't let you know. Born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, and
Fantastic.
As a former offensive lineman, we have to do this properly. Let me move this mic really quick. In honor of you becoming a finalist for the Hall of Fame and the shoe-in to become a Hall of Famer, here we go, Joe. Here we go.
Love it, man. That's beautiful.
Joe Thomas joining us here on 1140 The Bet. Perfect timing for us. Like I said yesterday, the finalists came out, your first year of eligibility, and you are a finalist for the Hall of Fame. So kind of talk me through the phone call, your reaction, and how emotional it was to finally get this call.
Yeah, the information that I finally got into the Hall of Fame finalists, which I say finally, it's my first time eligible, but it just seems like the process to get here has taken a while, because
honestly,
asked about this for a while, right? Like all summer, people are talking about it because they knew this would be the year that I was eligible. And so they get the nominees and they cut it down to the semifinalists. And then I'm like, come on, let's go already. So it was really special because I think cutting it down to 15 to that final 15 really made it real. Where when the list was a lot bigger, it didn't feel all that real yet. But having a chance to be a finalist and seeing those other names on the list and thinking about how great those guys were and thinking about playing against some of those guys like Dwight Freeney and DeMarcus Ware. And it became very, very surreal in that moment.
No, absolutely. And now that you say it, like me thinking like, damn, it's been a long time. I just think because now you're in the media and you're doing your thing, podcast, NFL Network. We see your face and we hear from you so much. We just figured, oh, he's been retired forever. But no, you went straight into it and made that transition. And you talk about thinking about Dwight Freeney and all the other names on the list too. Was there a moment of reflection when you got the call and kind of had a moment to sit down to kind of reflect on all your playing days with Cleveland?
Yeah, that's exactly one of the cool things that happens when you do get an honor like this, right? You immediately reflect back on, all right, this is really cool where I am, but how did I get here? Who are all those people that had a big influence on my life to put me down this path, right? Because it could have been any path, right? Like at any moment, you could have taken a different route and made a different decision and you wouldn't be here. And I think first and foremost, like my dad and how influential he was on me, inspiring the love of sports within me. He was like my hero as a kid, still is to this day. He's the person that I was given a lot of those values from, of like hard work and dedication and showing up for your teammates. And so I certainly wouldn't be a Hall of Fame finalist without him. But then I also think like seventh grade, I started playing football. Coach Pinch was my coach, Coach Driscoll in eighth grade, and then on to high school with Coach Seinold, and like all the different offensive line coaches I had through high school and then college and then playing in the NFL and being in the same spot for 11 seasons. I'm probably one of the few guys that had 6 different head coaches in one spot. I had 2 owners. I had 9 offensive coordinators, a number.
Do we know the quarterback number?
Coaches.
Do we know the QB
I had
number?
20. I just saw it today because somebody sent me the full list of Hall of Famers and they had my stuff in there. And the number 2 thing on there was, number 1 was 10 Pro Bowls. Number 2 was like block for 22 different quarterbacks. So it is kind of fun. It's fun, but it's also traumatizing a little bit, reflecting back on my 11 seasons in Cleveland that resulted in 0 playoffs.
Well, I do want to say, and you brought up your dad, which I think might be the answer to the question I'm about to ask you, but thinking about your career and your situation and the lack of team success, I think a lot of people can, in their lives, take it to like, how many people can work somewhere that they truly enjoy, whether it's the coworkers, the situation, this, that, and the third. But for you to constantly, produce and come out with this quality and be such a great player, like, how hard was it to get motivation every year when you're like, this might be another 5-11, 3-13 type season?
Yeah, it was a grind on a daily basis, but I think it's a grind for everybody, no matter the success or failure of your team, because the NFL season is just tough. Like your bodies are beat up. There's a ton of pressure on you every single week. But for me, I felt blessed because as I reflected in the last week on kind of my 11 seasons in the NFL, I thought of all the great players I played with, not only on the field, like their great performances, but them as great human beings. And I think the people within the Browns organization, the trainers, the equipment staff, the front office people, like it was always really, really good people that I got a chance to work with. And I think that's what allowed you to get through some of the drudgery and the misery of the bad seasons.
And we're gonna go back and ask you a couple more questions on your playing career, but I want to transition really quick to the Raiders and everything going on here in Las Vegas on this rainy day in Las Vegas, the kind of match the season that the Raiders have had. Before we get into Derek Carr specifically, what's been your outlook and your thoughts so far of this season of disappointment?
Well, it's been so surprising to me, right? Because with all the turmoil that the Raiders had last season, they ended up having a really good season. And so you would think with stability, bringing in Josh McDaniels, guy's been a head coach, been an offensive coordinator forever. Seemingly, he's going to bring in a good offense. I've got a ton of respect for Derek Carr. I was like, man, they're going to be a good squad. I think that was what everybody in the NFL kind of expected. And to see them perform and play and kind of fracture the way they did, it was a shock to me. And I can't put my finger on it. I think defensively, obviously not a good defense, not a very good offensive line. So it makes it hard. But look, when Josh McDaniels was in New England, usually their defense was solid, but sometimes they had terrible offensive lines. And typically with a good run game and a great, maybe the best receiver in the NFL, and Devontae Adams, and the ability to get rid of the ball quickly with Derek Carr, like usually that can overcome a lot of that stuff. So it's kind of a head scratcher to me why they weren't able to overcome that more often.
Yeah, and the result of Derek Carr's worst pro career, and you bring up that offensive line. Obviously Josh Jacobs is having a hell of a year that no one expected. Obviously, he had motivation. He didn't get his player option. He's about to become a free agent and probably get paid. But can you explain to me, as an offensive lineman, explain to me as a fan how that works, where we've had 15 different variations of that offensive line throughout the season. It's not very good, but Josh Jacobs is having the best season of his career.
Well, it really points to how good Josh Jacobs is. I look at the PFF stats every week as I'm getting ready for the slate of games on the weekend, and Josh Jacobs is always one of the guys grading out at the top of that list, which is amazing when you don't have an offense that really throws the ball all that efficiently, and you don't have a good defense, so your defense is getting scored on a lot. That means you're not getting a lot of opportunities to run the ball typically. And then when you have kind of a shaky offensive line that's had a lot of shuffling, like usually your blocking's not very good. So that says this dude's been doing it by himself the entire year. And I'm not a big believer in drafting a running back high in the NFL draft, but Josh Jacobs is sort of making me question that philosophy, because he's been an absolute beast and probably one of the two lone bright spots. Or maybe I'll give you three. Max Crosby, he's kind of a stud too. But Devontae, Max, and Josh Jacobs, sort of your bright spots that you're hopefully going to lean on as you're trying to build some optimism into the 2023 season.
And I think everyone in Las Vegas is awaiting your answer on this question. The topic of conversation for the past 2 weeks, just in general, what have you thought of, I guess, the Derek Carr fiasco of benching him? He leaves the team. Rumors that McDaniels in the front office didn't really believe in him, so they left him out to dry. Like all this drama surrounding Derek Carr. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I hate that, because the quarterback is the most important position in all of professional sports. So you got to make sure you feel really, really good about that position. And you got to make sure, more than any other positions in the front office or the coaching staff, that the quarterback's abilities are aligned with the head coach's ability and offense, and that they believe in one another, and that the front office is totally on board with everything that happens. And that with the first signs of stress and fracture, like all of a sudden those pieces don't disintegrate and people start stabbing each other in the back, because there's going to be adversity in the NFL season. And to see it kind of happen the way it has, I don't know Derek Carr very well. I played in a few Pro Bowls with him, and I know people that know him and say he's a great dude. And so I'm really cheering for him. And it makes me feel bad for him that, yeah, he hasn't played well this season, but it seems like the situation he was put into was almost an unwinnable situation. And I do wonder what's going to happen in the future. I think for him to step away from the team the last 2 weeks was probably good for both sides. It was probably good for him because he didn't want to be around being the scout team quarterback. Like, that's not good for him, especially when he's trying to figure out what next season looks like. Maybe it's in Las Vegas, maybe it's somewhere else. And it's probably better for the team not to have that distraction around. But also from the team standpoint, the reason he's not playing is largely because they don't want him to get hurt, because they don't have to pay him. So you probably don't want him getting hurt in practice, throwing reps on scout team to scout team receivers.
I was kind of surprised, when that happened. Josh Jacobs spoke to the media and said, hey, we assumed something was up because he wasn't in the locker room, but Derek Carr kind of didn't say anything to his teammates, didn't have like a final moment. Is that something, like, as fans, like, it's status quo because there's so many transactions that dudes don't get to talk in front of the team? But also Derek Carr's been there for 9 years. Like, does that look bad on the front office that they didn't give him that moment? Or it's like, yo, we're in the middle of the season, we got too much things to do, we can't just get you on in front of everybody to say goodbye?
Yeah, you could write a book about this season for the Las Vegas Raiders. So much drama there, so many things to unpack. And I do wonder myself why the decision was made. Where did it come from? Because somebody in that triumvirate between general manager, head coach, and ownership said, we got to bench Derek Carr. And then the other people got on board with it, either because that's their job to go along with what the owner says, or because of some other factors and some other influence. So you wonder who made that decision and who felt like it would be best for him to be away from the team. Maybe that came from Derek, but I would be surprised by that, because I feel like Derek's a good soldier, and that maybe it was brought to him by somebody else. And he said, okay, I understand it's probably the best for all parties to not be around these last couple of weeks of the season. But even in that case, even if you don't believe in Derek, which that's the rumor that's coming out here, you wish, because he has been the face of the franchise for a while, and because he's so well liked in that locker room that you at least give him an opportunity to kind of explain why it makes sense for him to step away and give him an opportunity to say, hey, this isn't about me anymore. It's about you guys. I want to give you guys the best opportunity to put your best foot forward these last couple of games of the season for the Las Vegas Raiders this season, but also for next season. And then for you guys that aren't going to be in Las Vegas, you have an opportunity to finish the season the right way so that you have a chance to pick up with another team this offseason. And I think that could have been a powerful message. And I think it was an opportunity loss for the Raiders and for Derek Carr.
And the Tom Brady rumors are ramping up again, which it seems like it's been happening for the past 3 seasons. To me personally, I don't think he's the answer, whether it's next year or the future. But there's some people here in Las Vegas and Raider Nation that are willing to sell the house, sell the farm rather, to get him to be a part of this team for next year. To me, the defense has too many holes. He's not going to fix everything. What's your opinion on Tom Brady coming to Las Vegas? Is he a cure-all?
So there's 2 parts to this. One is Tom Brady playing defense next year, because when I look at the Raiders, they're 30th in sacks. They're 31st in taking the football away. They're 28th in red zone, and they're 29th in pass defense. Those are not winning numbers. So until you fix the defense, it almost doesn't really matter who you have at quarterback. They're not going to fix the problem. But then also, I know that it's a natural fit between Josh McDaniels and Tom Brady. They're so close. They spent so many years together in New England, but Brady's gone through a tough season in Tampa Bay this year. And some of it because his offensive line stinks. Some of it's because the defense had a lot of injuries. But I don't think he personally, as much as he loves Josh McDaniels, wants to come out here and play another 500 season because his defense isn't very good. Where I think he's got another option potentially in San Francisco, where that's his hometown, where he might want to go out there and have an opportunity to finish in his hometown with Kyle Shanahan and a defense that's tops in the NFL that right now is making a run with Brock Purdy as a quarterback. So I know that it's fun reading the tea leaves and try to connect the dots, but I think from Brady's standpoint, if he leaves Tampa Bay and continues to play, he's going to want to play for a Super Bowl. And I don't think the Las Vegas Raiders are Super Bowl contenders next season, no matter who their quarterback is.
Mark Davis is clenching his fist as he listens to this. Before we get you out of here, Joe Thomas joining us from NFL Network, a finalist for the upcoming class in the NFL Hall of Fame. So let's go down memory lane really quick with 2 questions. What is your favorite QB that you played for out of the 20 plus that we talked about earlier?
So my best friend that I played with in the NFL was Alex Mack. He was my center. Probably my next best friend was Colt McCoy. He's our quarterback in Cleveland for a few years, and he's still balling down in the desert there in Arizona. So I love playing with him, but I think from just a general great teammate perspective, Josh McCown, he's the guy that always pops into my head. Dude played forever. By the time he was in Cleveland, he was almost a coach on the field. And he was old enough to be, I think he was older than some of our coaches. Actually, it was funny. One of our last seasons, I think it was Jordan Cameron was our tight end. And Josh has a daughter who's like almost Jordan's age. So she came to practice and started telling her dad, like, hey, your teammate's pretty hot. And I don't think he liked that too much. He's like, my daughter should not be old enough to think my teammates are hot.
Exactly.
So he was a great guy, though, just a student in the game. He was totally team first. He had an unbelievable amount of experiences and stories, a great communicator. And when he got his opportunities, he laid it all on the line for the team. Just a fabulous team. Had everything you'd ever want.
And being in the AFC North, of course, the Ravens, the Steelers have always had pretty good defenses, dominant defenses at times. What is the one defense or player that caused you in your career to prep more week of, whether it's in the watching tape, in the gym? What player or defense was that?
Yeah, so AFC North, it was James Harrison twice a season. It was Terrell Suggs twice a season. But, I had a good handle on how to deal with those guys because you play them so much. Yeah. The guys that were the toughest that caused me the most stress was DeMarcus Ware and Dwight Freeney, because I only played those guys like once every 4 years. And obviously completely dominant pass rushers that changed the game, how they did things. Dwight Freeney with that spin move. Nobody did it like that before he did. And now you see a few guys in the NFL, but nobody has ever come to the level that he did with that devastating spin move. He wrecked shop on the best tackles in the NFL. DeMarcus Ware, his get off, his power, his ability to dip and rip and lean reminds me a lot of Myles Garrett. DeMarcus is a finalist with me this year, his second time on the ballot. I bet you he gets in. And Dwight Freeney is his first time on the ballot, and I bet he gets in this year too. So 2 guys that I hated seeing on Sundays, but hope to see in Canton this summer, 2023.
I just realized you're about to bring Browns Nation to Canton right down the hallway.
Street,
we love to see it. Joe Thomas, thank you. First off, congratulations, and thank you for all your coverage and everything you do. Thanks for joining us from NFL Network, and of course, a Hall of Fame finalist of this year. Joe, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.